All right. So my name is Greg Freeze. I'm the host of the Frying Pan. I have a nice little cool background here, two podiums and a TV in the middle. This is also going to be used for my debates too. The other person will sit at the other podium, and we'll see how that goes. I do like the background. It goes with the aesthetics of the channel. It looks pretty cool. We got the screen in the middle to pull up facts, pull up sources. I feel like that's a good thing to always have. Just because if I'm wrong, I want to see that I'm wrong, and if the other person's wrong, I want them to see that they're wrong. Correct? All right. So today we're going to be talking about three topics: Venezuela, the war crimes that are supposedly being put onto these fishing boats, but they're drug trafficking boats. Um, Also, with that topic, we're going to be talking about the fentanyl that's coming into the country. Who are the main importers? We're also going to be talking about abortion because I heard something today that really kind of riffed me the wrong way. And overall, we're also going to be talking about the war crimes against the boats, abortion, and also about how the Democratic Party, with simple research and also looking into it, you can kind of figure out that the political switch between Democrats and Republicans did not happen at all. Okay. Ideologies might have changed a little bit, but they were still the Democratic Party, and we are still the Republicans, right? The Republicans did not become more for slavery. That's never happened, right? So, and there's simple facts that can actually prove this, right? So, back in the day, the KKK was funded and founded by the Democrats. This is a thing that has happened, and this is a thing that is in history, and you can see this. They are also the ones that funded and founded slavery. And then And then they also were Jim Crow, the party of Jim Crow. And were also the party to fight against actually the civil rights movement, right? So their ideology couldn't change that much from the slavery time to the civil rights movement, okay? It just does not work out that way. So yeah, we're gonna talk about those topics, and we're gonna really get down to the meats and noodles and potatoes. The meats and potatoes. We're gonna get down to it. All right, we're gonna start here. Okay. So we can see that right here. They say like every boat that they blow up has an average of enough fentanyl to kill 25,000 on average. Some people say more, and basically they're saying that you can see they're stacked up with bags of white powder that's mostly fentanyl and other drugs too. So this is where I'm gonna call him out on. Okay, Venezuela itself is known for coke. All right, that's one of the biggest things that they produce and outport. They do outport fentanyl too and other drugs itself, but they do outport mostly cocaine. That's one of their biggest movements there for the drug trafficking world. We do see overall that you can look at this and say, well, if they're moving cocaine, why does it matter, and why are we blowing up their boats? Okay, so China and Mexico are the number one infrastructures for the fentanyl movement and getting the drug trafficking coming into America. Trump is also making the move on the Trump with China. His party has gone there. They're making deals about hopefully helping the reduction in the actual movement of the fentanyl into our country from China. He's trying to work with Mexico, but Mexico, that's a whole different topic. And then Venezuela, right? Venezuela says they have no idea this is happening, and so that they're starting to get offended by us blowing up these boats, but the boats are confirmed to have drugs on them. They're not fishing boats. They're not pulling big nets behind them. Okay, they're not fucking fishing. If they were fishing, they would be slow, steady in the water, and if they were fishing with a net, they're not going to be driving that fast on that boat with that much weight with also a net catching all the fish behind them. They're not doing that. Okay, it's just not. Have some critical thinking here. Okay, all right. So when we look at this, there are a couple drugs, and I will also pull this up to you too. Um, so I know um, the first one is going to be marijuana, probably. Okay. Let's see here. Uh, so, uh, so we're gonna look at this itself here. So we're gonna see an actual sign here. So if we look at it, we look at heroin's going to be number one. Cocaine is going to be number three. Other substances is going to be like marijuana. Depressants are like Xanax and just other opioids that people like hydros and stuff like that. King Klonopins, all that stuff can be pressed by some people by themselves, right? Um, so overall, yeah. So this is where we can see this happening, and just in January, heroin was the highest one, whereas Xylene was the second. And we're gonna look at as not like meth and stuff like that. That's gonna be basically at 12% here. So what that does show is that these drugs coming in from Venezuela are gonna potentially be laced with fentanyl itself, and cocaine is also another big one that will also be laced too. Okay, and also marijuana is at a raising high. I don't know why it doesn't bring up marijuana in this. I think that's just the other substance category, because that is a big thing, especially in New York State. We're one of the main runners for laced weed, and this is fentanyl laced weed, and it is killing people. Okay, so in my defense here, I'm saying, how is it a war crime when they have lawyers, they have military judges, basically what they call them, sitting there confirming that if these things that they do are legal or not, and they're giving them the green light, right? So meaning that in their vision, in their eyes, that it should be legal, so they're going to do it, right? They had two guys that survived one of the boat crashes, and they swim to the boat, hanging onto the boat, and you can see them on walkie talkies. Do you think they're walkie talking? They're saying, hey, we're just going to let the Americans take us? No, they're calling in for reinforcements for them to come back and help them get out of the water, right? And it's not like we strike them down right away. It was about 25 to 30 minutes after us watching them, seeing what they're going to be doing, and then they show this, right? And and that goes to show that they were calling for reinforcements. They weren't calling for basically the to plead a deal with the U.S. They weren't doing that. They were pleading for the other people to come rescue them and help them in the need that they needed to be in, right? So overall, we can take a look at this. I don't see anything wrong with this, especially when we look at these facts. Okay, when we look at overdoses inside of a year, just 1 year, we look at 7 out of every 10 overdoses. Okay, and that's about 105,000 people died from drug overdoses in 1 year, and this is from the NCDAS. I've read this article. You can really see how crazy this really is, bro. Okay, it's 105,000 on average. Last year it was a little less, but the numbers are just growing. And other years that were the highest were during COVID because, well, people were doing a lot of drugs during COVID because there was nothing else to do because the shutdown happened, right? So we're looking at this number right here, and now we go over this, and this is the crazy statistic. We were in the Vietnam War for about 20. No, we were in the Vietnam War from 1964 to 1973, and there was only 58,000 U.S. casualties. We have more people dying every year from drug overdoses than we did in what, a 10-year span in a war? You guys are insane to be backing these Venezuelan drug boaters, dude. Like, they're doing something wrong here. They are killing people. They are not helping. They're not only doing it to help their family. They're doing it because they like the fucking money. Some of them, I'll give it, maybe doing it against their own liking or willingness, but I guarantee that's far fetched from every single one. Okay, this is still a thing where, oh, well, how is this going to help? It might help dwindle people from bringing fucking drugs in here because they know we're going to kill fuckers. Because guess what? Overall, if they do bring in the drugs and we blow up their shit or we kill the next person, guess what? That might dwindle them wanting to ever do it again, right? I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but it's going to dwindle that. Sorry for that interruption. I had to go do something real quick. All right. So, overall, I left off at basically saying that this might dwindle them from actually doing something, bringing in drugs that should not be coming in. And people might go, well, fentanyl is brought in the most into the country by legal trade. Then no. Most of the fentanyl that's actually put into the drugs for lacing is illegally brought in by China and Mexico and Venezuela. You can look this up. We look at Mexico and China. They're the biggest importers for it. Okay? Venezuela brings drugs to Mexico, to Europe, and they have trade routes also to China. Okay? And there's trade routes that go through them and then go to the States too. Okay? So hands down, I don't understand how anybody can go defending a cartel saying war crimes when they're killing more people in a year. They might not personally be doing it, but they are inflating those numbers for us to cause more deaths in 1 year than took place in 10 years of the Vietnam War. How can you sit here and defend people that do this? They don't give a fuck that, guess what, your daughter or your sister or your brother or your kids might overdose from this. So I don't understand how people can sit here and actually defend this craziness and defend the actual people of doing this, right? Just makes no sense. Makes no sense when it comes down to it. And the only people that are defending this are liberals or the Democratic Party. But if it was the other way around, if the Democrats were doing this, which they do really usually support murder if it's for a right reason, I guess in their eyes, for a right reason, right? Like Charlie Kirk using freedom of speech. Go watch TV. Okay. Just like I said, just like Charlie Kirk using freedom of speech and not using hate speech, but speech they hated because it was the truth, they went and killed him and they thought, well, he deserved it, right? That's a scumbag move. I will say that right here and now. That's a scumbag move. So you guys think murder's okay when you do it, but when the other does it, it's not okay. So you're gonna sit here and support the cartel that's murdering even maybe somebody you know, right? With the drug overdose itself. You're gonna sit here and say, well, that's all right. Because, well, they gotta feed their families. We need to care about America first. This is the same thing that goes with the illegal immigration that's happening and with ICE, right? They shouldn't be here illegally. You can do it legally. We have one of the easiest ways to get into a country with a citizenship. You can look this up. You can go to Canada, and if you have a record, they're not letting you through the border. And I know this because my father has one felony for something that he didn't even fucking do. And they told him basically and held him for an hour at the border saying, we don't want you to come into this country. Kept him there for an hour even when he said, okay, I'll go home. And they still held him, right? So don't sit here and back people that are killing people that you probably know, and you want to say it's a fucking war crime? When you guys don't even know the fucking law? It's crazy. It's crazy how you can sit here and really believe in your own fantasy world, your own made-believe RPG fantasy world that you like to live in La La Land. This is as simple as it comes. They are killing our own. We need to do something about it. Right? We've been sitting here for too long not doing anything about it. Anything. It is time we do something about it so our loved ones don't keep getting affected, or even maybe you. Because when it comes down to it, you can take a fucking party drug and you just think you're having a good time. And believe me, I get it. You want to have a good time? You want to do something like that? I don't blame you. I had my party years too. But how do you know that one time that you're doing a party time that you just think isn't going to do anything to you, just get you to have a good night, and the next thing you know, you're lying dead on the floor? It's simple. I don't understand how you can sit here and back somebody and say it's war crimes. It's honestly disgusting that you can sit here and back a cartel over your U.S. citizens. It is crazy that you can sit here and back them just because you don't like the guy in office. Because guess what? If fucking Obama was doing this, you guys would all be for it. You guys would all be for it. But no, but no. But when Obama deports over 2 million people, there's nothing wrong with that. When Hillary Clinton and Biden both said in the 90s and early 2000s that deportation of illegal aliens is needed and for them to come into the U.S. the right way was the most important thing, you guys backpedal so much. Backpedal so much. It's just insane. It's insane to me how you can sit here and really believe in what you want to call your views and have nothing to back it but your own feelings. Especially when it comes to something about this. You guys have to start looking at the stance, bro. We have had over 1.25 million people die since 1999 from drug overdoses. I'm not going to say that's all from fentanyl, but that is from drug trafficking, drugs being brought into the country. We need to do something about it now before it even becomes 2 million or 3 million. But no, you guys want to back the drug traffickers. Well, they got a family they got to support. Well, so do we. And we go out and get a job and we do it the right way. Just saying. And now, let me go ahead and we're going to go on to the next actual thing itself. And this one's going to be a little wonky because I don't know, for some reason, you guys just want to hear it your way. Okay? So, if we look at abortions, all right, I just saw somebody today, well, we should have mandatory vasectomies to stop abortions because, I mean, that would stop the problem. And I'm not saying he's wrong, right? But so you guys are all about your body, your choice when it comes to women, but when it's a man, he has to no matter what get a vasectomy to stop the abortions. What happened to taking the responsibility of your actions? If we look at the statistics here, only 98%, I say only 98% of abortions are all done willingly and not needed. What I mean by that is the 2% is by incest, by grape, and by, well, medically needing it or the mother's going to die. Okay, so when we look at that, that's a big number. Okay, that's just because they don't want to take the responsibility of their own actions. And you want to say it's to control women. It's not. It's not. It's about making people own up to what they're doing. Sex used to be something so intimate and done with the people that actually care about, or, you know, sometimes these things did happen. But guess what? The difference between today and just back then is more people owned up to it back in the day when they had to call it a shotgun wedding because they made a mistake, but they were owning up to their actions and taking responsibility. Today, you can't sit here and tell me abortion is healthcare when it's only healthcare to 2% of the people that actually need it. For the other 98%, it's just a birth control. There's no way that you can sit here and back that. Because, just saying, over 13 million babies have been murdered and killed just since, see it here, I had this right here. So 1.6 million annually in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were declining, okay, but then when it got reversed, okay, so now we're seeing a totaling over 63 million abortions from the early 2020s from 1973. So 1973 to the early 2020s, we see 63 million abortions. And that's just because people don't want to own up to their own repercussions and they don't want to deal with their responsibilities. You sit here and tell me, well, it's not a baby, it's a fetus. If you go to the Latin term, fetus basically means tiny human or offspring. Offspring also means baby. You can't sit here and call it a clump of cells. When you're a clump of cells, you're just more developed. And you can't sit here and say, well, it's attached to the mother. It's not attached at all. Because if it was attached, it would be permanent. It's not permanent. It's only there for 9 months. Okay, so you can't use that argument either. So you're going to sit here and say it's okay that 63 million babies or fetuses, how you guys want to say, I'll even use it in your terms, is okay for them to die. It is totally different when the mother needs it. If my fiance ever went and we were having a baby and it was medically needed, that it was either her life or the baby's, I would pick hers, hands down, all the time. I'm not saying abortion is bad in every scenario. It's not bad for the ones that actually need it. It's not bad for the ones that get raped and they had no choice at all in this situation or opinion or the new life choice that they have to live with. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them being able to have an abortion, but mostly I am pro-life and I will always be. Just because you can't live with your repercussions to your actions doesn't make you a good person. You can't pull, well, I'm poor. You'll figure it out. I'm poor and I figure it out. You can't pull the, well, the mother and father are crackheads. Well, doesn't matter because he might grow up or she might grow up to be an amazing person. Might be the next $1 billion person. Might be a next business owner or a politician or a doctor or anything like that. So you can't sit here and tell me that. Just because what your parents are or how your life is doesn't mean how your outcome's going to be. So basically, you're saying because of those chances, is you are going to go and cut those chances, even for him being something great or her being something great. You're going to cut those right off from there and say basically, well, you don't get to live just because your parents are shitty, or you don't get to live because, well, your family's poor. So you're going to sit here and tell me that that's an okay reason to have an abortion. Where are the morals? Where are the human rights? I'm not talking about constitutional rights because they're not born yet. They're not a U.S. citizen just yet. I'm talking about human rights. The human right is to live. And you're taking that away from them before they get to even have that chance. All right. So, and now we're going to talk about this. Because, I mean, this is only going to be like a 30-minute long video. It's kind of a little bit of a rant. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, especially if you made it this far. I just don't see how vasectomies would be able to make the abortion thing not happen. I don't understand how basically mandated vasectomies is a good thing at all, because you want to talk about pro-choice. Well, what about their choice? A man doesn't get to choose, and they also come up with that fact is only 90% of actual vasectomies are reversible. The other 10%, they'll never be able to have kids again. So basically, you're going to cut their balls and snip them because overall, you don't want the people to deal with their actions and deal with the repercussions that come from their actions. You want to have mandatory vasectomies. So basically, you're going to take that 10% of people that do have them to never have kids again. They won't even get the chance to have a kid because you want mandatory vasectomies. Where's the pro-choice in that? This is why I'm saying the logic on the left just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. You tell me how that makes sense. All right. All right. So we'll go on to this. If we're looking at the left, the Democrats, and we really look at this, they're the ones that wanted slavery. They were the ones that were waving that flag for the Confederacy. You know, they were doing the most to keep slavery around until the Civil War happened. Then you had Abraham Lincoln, who wanted more rights for the slaves, right? So he wanted to see them as more humans, and then by that, he actually freed the slaves. So we go down the line a little bit here. They also funded and formed the KKK, and this is the Democrats I'm talking about. Formed and made and funded the KKK. Then you go down the line, and supposedly there's a big party switch. That wasn't a big party switch at all. Only about 3 politicians actually switched seats around this time. You can look this up, do a little research. Don't look at the first Google AI thing that you can find. Um, it's just not that way. Okay, they did change ideologies to be better represented. I will say that, but it's not like Republicans out of nowhere wanted slavery. That's not how that happened. Okay, they wanted to be more easier on that view, the Democrats, so they did change their ideology. It's not Republicans went and picked up that ideology. That never happened. Okay, because the Republican Party was formed by Abraham Lincoln, who also was against slavery, wanted more rights for them. So we see supposedly this big political ideology switch between the two parties, which never happened. Okay. We just had some of the Democrats switch their views, 2 of them, and then we had 2 on the Republican side that switched seats basically. The Democrats made their views a little bit better, but it couldn't be that good, right? Because they're the party of Jim Crow. They're the party of forming and making, here it is, Planned Parenthood. And Planned Parenthood wasn't made for women's choice. It was actually made and formed off the basis of the woman that formed it wanted to destroy the nuclear family, the modern family. She thought kids were the biggest sins that you could bring into this world. And I mean, her ideology is striving today. She would be so happy if she lived today, and that's just the truth. She would be so happy that people fell into her evil ideology, right? But back to this, to the party of that, and then they were the party against voting against the Civil Rights Act movement. So how can you tell me and sit here and then tell me that the Democrats have changed? Even when you look at it, you have Biden saying that, well, I guess black kids could be as smart as white kids. Biden. Guess what Biden also did? He dropped the hard R in the Supreme Court hearing. You also have one of the most famous presidents in the 1900s that got caught on videotape and voice recording saying basically we're going to make the black community live off the government so we can control them for years to come. You just, it's just one of those things where you sit here and you really think about it. You really think about it. And all they do is talk about race even today. That's all they talk about. That, oh, you should have white guilt. That you shouldn't be happy that you're white because, well, you're evil. That Black Lives Matters, and if you say all lives matters, well, you're instantly a racist. None of it makes sense. Because all lives do matter. It doesn't matter about your skin color, especially if you do believe in a religion, a faith, like me. I'm Christian. I believe everybody matters. I don't care about the color of your skin. My girlfriend, well, my fiance, she's Puerto Rican. I don't give a fuck about that type of thing. I don't understand why Republicans are racist fascists. I really don't. Now, could you say that down south you see a little bit more racism? Not really. Because you can go to New Orleans, which is a highly black population, and a lot of them don't give a fuck. They say they love America. They say this is a great place. They get asked, well, do you think we're super racist here? They say, no, not really. So my whole point here is, why is it the left dwindles on race so much? And there's a reason why. They use it as a political advancement. They use it to control. They use it to make sure that their ideologies get brainwashed into the people that follow them. All you see is Democrat parties inside of news channels. There's only one I'll give it three. Right, the Daily Wire, um, Fox, and then News Matters. Those are the only Republican actual outsources that I can think about that have any fame behind them. But then you look at the main news channels: CBN, CBS, uh, CBNW, whatever, right? CNN. You have all of these. They're all Democrat. So that's all you hear is just what that side thinks, no matter what. Please do the research and actually look up for yourself and really look into it. Go to the .orgs, the .govs. Don't just go to CNN website. Actually look into it. Racism is alive today because of the left. And I will say that until I die. It's all used as a political movement to better themselves, and that's it. They want to make sure we stay divided so they can keep doing what they want. And that will also go for the Republicans too, because there's other topics that they make sure that we're divided too, and they don't want to see us to come together. The reason I call myself as a conservative is because I can go and sit and believe some of the stuff that they actually say. When you go to the left and you ask them what a woman is, they can't even tell you what a woman is. They'll go ahead and tell you that a woman is somebody who identifies as a woman. A circular definition that doesn't actually give you an answer. So when you sit here and you say these things, and you really think about it, they live in a fairyland. A fairy tale land that doesn't make no sense at all. Yeah. Sorry, my cat was in the way. He's an old guy, he's like 10. But really take some time and look into the research and don't just go, well, you're a fascist, you're a racist because you think this. Give me some reasons why I'm wrong. You can insult all you want, but if you can't prove your point, doesn't mean you win because you can insult people. If you want to be somebody that's dumb and just listens to the news media and that's all you do, you don't actually listen to nothing else, you don't do no research, you don't look into it, you can't sit here and tell me that I'm a fascist or I'm a Nazi or something along those lines. Because it's crazy because the left's biggest thing is socialism, and socialism comes from communism, and communism comes from Marxism, and also fascism is also another one that comes off of that. They call the Nazi Party a supranationalist country that has socialist ideas. They wanted control. They wanted to take the rights away from a certain type of somebody. They wanted to make sure that there was division between everybody. They wanted to make sure that basically when it comes down to it, they all thought the same thing. You can have Republicans that go out and debate each other because we don't all think the same things. But you go in as a Democrat, well, what do you stand for? They'll tell you the same exact thing over and over and over and over again. They all have the same views. Stop being brainwashed. Stop just thinking you're right because you can yell. Stop thinking you're right because you can insult, and then if they don't listen, you hurt them for saying their own opinions. That's not how this works. We live in a democracy, which is also a republic. All right? We live in this world that you're supposed to be free, and free speech is supposed to be a thing. Right? But that wasn't a show with Charlie Kirk. Man gave a mic to both sides. One side to talk and the other side to talk and actually talk about ideas. You could say it was clickbait or rage baiting, anything like that. But guys went out and shot him. I'm saying it doesn't seem pretty free unless it's what you guys want to say. But yeah, so those are my three topics. I'll let it be here. The more news comes out, the more I'll go ahead and comment on it. And yeah, hopefully soon I can get some people on here. I know me and my buddies haven't done the podcast in a minute. I've been sick with the flu. I still am. Um, we all three of us has lives. We're gonna make sure to try to do one this upcoming week, so that should get posted. Um, there will be topics that we want to talk. I'll probably bring up some of those too, just so I can get their views. But I do want to say thank you for tuning in. If you agree with me, that's awesome. If you don't, put down in the comments why. Don't sit there and just say, well, you're a fascist or how you look or, oh, you're a pedophile or anything like that. I don't give a fuck. If you can't prove me wrong with statistics and facts, I don't want to hear it. This is about debating, not about sitting here insulting each other. This is about conversation. This is about seeing if we can meet a common ground and be one and go towards the right thing together. Not just about calling each other's names and spreading violence and hate. Prove me wrong and be a decent person and debate me without insulting me. But I just don't think that's in your DNA. I will see though. I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. And this has been my TED Talk. But yeah, I'm gonna hop on out of here. I'm gonna go enjoy myself, hang with my kids, and you guys have a good one.